Okay, welcome to another fireside chat on my YouTube channel here, and I have the great pleasure to talk to Nima Bagheri, who has entered kind of the search of Satoshi Nakamoto and has also published a book. So Nima, very much welcome here to the chat. Thanks for accepting my invitation. And can you please introduce yourself a little bit, your background and how you got maybe on that Satoshi Nakamoto path and to the origins of Bitcoin?
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for having me. So my name is Nima Bagheri. I'm cybersecurity expert. Been doing this about 20 plus years. And I started my cybersecurity as a project leader for rootkit.com. And then I started my own company. We were making anti-malware technologies. And basically, I was involved in cybersecurity. Since then, I started working for Dell Sonic while I was as a senior security researcher. And finally, in 2024, I started my own company, Winax Security.
Great. Thanks a lot. And so you bring in a lot of expertise that maybe our general audience doesn't have. So that's going to be very interesting. And you wrote and published a book, as far as I understand, like last year in 2024. So can you tell us a little bit, like maybe like a whistle-stop tour or something through that book or your main findings or whatever you like to communicate to us?
Yeah, definitely. So actually, the I wrote a blog about Satoshi Nakamoto back then in 2021 that I was comparing a file from first version of Bitcoin and a file um, uh, in Adam Back's repository, DL repository, which is already available
On
for
the
the public
Hashcash,
and
right?
on the Hashcash, yes. And then I noticed that there have a lot of similarity between them. It was just a thought. So, I just didn't really got deep into it. And then I kind of wanted to where like because everybody was saying like, oh, Adam Back is Satoshi Nakamoto, but there was not really evidence to prove that Adam Back is Satoshi Nakamoto. So I really got deep into it, trying to find the clues, different clues, which is I'm going to share today with you. There are some clues that I never been published because really busy, and mm, if no one interested in the subject, I just get uninterested to share and write a blog on. But now you reach out to me, and I think it was 6 months ago you originally reach out to me. Then I'm more interested to get into it. And today I actually want to provide more information and share more details with you that you can also publish into your
Great.
YouTube channel. So the when I got into deep into this subject, then I tried to find the unique signature between Adam Back, Hashcash, and first version of Bitcoin. And then I wrote a program that basically create a signature. You know how how your antivirus it works is basically every antivirus in the world, every antivirus engine in the world is looking for a specific 100 bytes, 60 bytes, 50 bytes based on their categorization to compare two files together. For example, if a hacker in a computer, if a hacker, cyber criminals creating a malware, in order for software companies to catch that malicious file, is to create a unique signature, and usually that unique signature is in the executable header files. Okay, so executable header files is basically has all the information from the from that computer who generated the executor. For example, if I get the source code and compile it in my computer, it would be different when you take the same source code file on your computer and compile it. Okay, that's how basically you can provide an evidence. Oh, which computer it's like a forensic, like when the government wants to come and arrest you, how they can tell you if you're the bad guy, like let's say you're a hacker and you generate. That's basically what does. When you compile a file on your computer, it creates a unique signature that is dedicated based on your computer. And then when for example your house get raided, they come and take all the evidence from the computer. They take your computer, they test it, they compile a file, and then they compare that with these two files. And that's how they're able to catch the cyber criminal. This is very been like this been going on about, like, I would say 20 years now, that this is how the cyber criminals get caught. So I did the same thing with these two files. So I get this file from Adam Back repository and the first version of the Bitcoin, and I put this into the software, and I find out that this file actually compiled with the same computer. So I can tell you with the certainty that this file is compiled in with
But
one machine.
how is that like, let's say if you take, let's say, a DNA signature, right, in
Mm-hmm.
a physical crime,
Yep.
that is usually a statistical process, and usually they say it's whatever 99.9% or so, right? Or if you do genetic testing for fatherhood or so, they say okay, it's a pretty high, pretty much like practically 100% chance.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when I studied a little bit, and I'm by no means a cybersecurity expert or so, so I'm happy if you explain all that to us. But when I saw your statement, I think you posted something, if I recall correctly, in 2021
Yep,
on the
that's correct.
same theme. And what struck me is that you essentially got a pretty immediate response from Adam
Mm-hmm.
Back, who you essentially put there a little bit in the position of being Satoshi Nakamoto, and of course he he rebuffed it immediately, and let's put it this way, he wasn't very happy that you came up with that, and so on. So, of course, we would expect that if you approach the person behind the pseudonym Satoshi Nakamoto, that's pretty much a knee-jerk reaction that you would always do, right? I don't think if I or you approach really that person, that they would say, "Oh yeah, glad you found me, and here I am." So they would probably dismiss it quite starkly, and so on. So, what about the statistics? Is there what would be the chance that that was just a coincidence and not a really like a unique signature, right? Like
Oh,
how much? What are the statistics about that? Have you looked into that, or like I would love for you to explain a little bit on that.
yes, definitely. Just to be clear, I actually didn't approach Adam Back. I have
Yeah, yeah,
never
yeah.
sent anything to Adam Back. Adam Back show out of nowhere. I created a blog post in bitcoin.org and I shared my information there. That post got banned. That post got banned by Jeff Grasnick. I don't know. I can't
Garzik,
remember
yeah,
his name.
yeah, that's
Garzik. Yeah, that's the guy who owns it. He moderate my post. He removed it. That post is no longer active. I can actually share the URL with you. But why? Allow me to actually show my book, so maybe I can give you a little bit of explanation there. Okay. Can you see my
yes,
screen?
yes, yes.
Okay. Okay, so the answer to the question will come back to here. So this is how the compiler works. You have the source code, C, C++, and Visual C++. It could be anything. Every this is common, and this is going to happen in every different computers when you compile a source code file. You have the source code, include header, macros, assembly code. It will come, and then there's this linking process. We're gonna get back to this first one because this is really important. Here, source code, like for example, we had all the Bitcoin's source code. Have you ever tried to compile the Bitcoin source code?
Not myself. No, I've just
Okay. I,
done some
I I
programming
highly
myself. Yeah.
recommend that I would highly recommend that share that link with your audience and ask them to try to compile it.
Can I just
Um,
ask which source code did you take? Evidently, you took the try to take the one that was originally published by Satoshi, right? So which
Uh,
version did you take? The post re public release or the version that circulated in I think November 2008 already?
well, here's the thing. The Bitcoin Foundation scrapped. They deleted the first version, second version, and third version of Bitcoin files from the repository, from the website. You cannot find them on the bitcoin.org. I had to use virustotal.com. I have a premium API key there, and I took the MD5 and I downloaded myself. The link that I send it to you is also has that source code files. Is the first version of a Bitcoin.
I think
Um,
there was a version that was circulated, and as far as I remember, I actually have it. I cannot pull it up here, but I think Satoshi, he had a couple of people, let's say Halfini, he got it
mhm.
in November 2008, while the original file was released on January 8, January 9, 2009, so almost 2 months later, right? But I mean,
Yes.
regardless, I think anything like the SourceForge directory where Satoshi decided to have the original repository,
Uh-huh.
I think it contained the exe file, right? Or that's what
It
I
is
recall.
it is, yes. Yes. And the same version of that has, so no, it has exe file and source files.
Yeah, yeah, the
They
source file
he,
anyway, but I think it's also the exit file because with the
yeah,
source
yeah.
file you couldn't see the signature, right? As far as I
Yeah,
understand
yeah,
your
yeah,
version.
yeah. It's
Okay.
source file, and the source file is just a C++ files. Is actually there is no project. Is not compilable. You cannot compile it on the Visual C++. And he also stated that it's not working on Visual C++. So now we have this absolute clue that this person, what we call it Satoshi Nakamoto, he is not able to compile a file in a Visual C++, and he works on a
Can you
Linux machine.
explain that a little bit, the C++? plus plus? I mean, he wrote something that you need, for example, he didn't, he, I think he referred to the GCC from new
Uh-huh.
compiler, right?
Yep.
And I think he said that he compiled it with it and also talked about, all the switches and so on that you should
Uh-huh.
activate there and he helped people on, other people downloaded it and then said that they couldn't get it to run on their machines and so on. So
Mm-hmm.
as far as I I can remember, he did compile the thing with the GCC compiler
Yes.
on
Yes, that's correct.
Windows and on Windows and he seemed to have some good knowledge of Linux. And I
Mm-hmm.
think but didn't develop that version. I think it came out about a year later on Linux, and then somebody else took charge of the Mac implementation and
That's
whatever, and or in
that's
other
correct.
programming languages and so on. So what are you saying now that Satoshi deposited an exe file on the SourceForge repository?
That's correct.
That would and you have that. So you have an early.
Hmm.
I think Satoshi essentially. Uh, my understanding is that all the files that were ever uploaded until he left the scene to
Uh-huh.
SourceForge, I think he exclusively used SourceForge. It was later by Andreessen or so moved to GitHub. But on
Uh-huh.
SourceForge, as far as I understand, he essentially exclusively controlled all the files that were deposited. So regardless of version 0.1, so the release version,
Hmm.
and all the versions until about mid or end 2010 when he handed over things. But so essentially all the files on SourceForge between 2008 and 2000 or 2009 and 2010 should all have been deposited by Satoshi Nakamoto.
Social
So if you
Nakamoto.
take any of these files, they should usually, I mean, have that signature that you're talking about, right? Okay, maybe you continue here, like with what you have there in the file, and
Yeah, definitely. So this is the two files that I compare. One of them is from the Bitcoin version 1, and the other one is Hashcash. but remember, this file is from 2006. This one's from 2008.
Maybe
there is about
just
2 years
sorry to
difference.
interrupt you. So these are
Yes,
DLL, so Windows
these are
Dynamic
DLL.
Link Libraries, right? So they are
Yeah, that's
also
correct.
compiled files, right? Which that
That's
should have
correct.
these signatures. Okay.
That's correct. And every component and linker generates a unique footprint based on your configuration and your PC setup. Even if you compile a file in a C drive, some compilers generate a different footprint when you compile your files in D drive. Okay, there are some differences. Actually, I put some example in my website or my blog that people can see the differences files. So if you have a VirusTotal, you can go and download them from these two links. This available, and also you can share the link that I gave it to you.
But if you have
It's
these
fine.
look like a little bit, if you're a Bitcoiner, they look like hashes, right? Like at least
Uh-huh.
the final part. Is that, but when does that change? When you change the file, whatever you just change a single character or program line, or does that number, I think if you scroll up a little bit, it was there. These numbers there where the virustotal.com there, this final number after the file slash. Is that like
Uh-huh.
a characteristic number that changes with the compiler and the machine, or does it also change with the program code?
No, this is a hash. This is SHA-32. Are you talking about this number?
Yeah.
This is a
Are these the numbers that
SHA-32.
you're talking about, or are they something different?
No, I'm talking about these numbers. These are the
Okay.
numbers these numbers I highlighted. These are
Okay.
the footprints. Okay. This
Yeah.
file that you can find in the VirusTotal, these are SHA-32 files that
Oh, they're
like
shot. Yeah,
some
then hashes.
yeah, this is where I originally download these files.
Okay, and that's just a
If you
check.
yeah,
Yeah. So
if
you
you
just
have
check
a
the integrity of the download
yeah,
without.
exactly. Like you remember we talked that I talked with the evidence.
Hmm.
I want to have like I want to everyone who listening to your audio this clip to be able to do the same test. You can
Okay.
also share that link that I shared with you, so people if they want
Yeah,
to
I can
download
put
it from
the
those
links
links.
and also the link to your book in the description of the YouTube video
Oh,
so
thank you.
people can find
I
it. Okay.
appreciate you. So exactly. So same this compiler is to this the same computer since basically so you here I'm referring to Adam Back. Adam Back used the same computer with Hashcash and library 2 DLL. The computer left its own signature there. So I highlight these signatures. This is actually
So what is,
uh,
can you, I mean, I just see a lot of numbers, so they all look
uh-huh.
different at first glance. So what is, where do you see the similarity? Maybe just
So
not.
yes, these are basically entry point. These are in the exe header. You
Hmm.
know, is it so like when you compile this executable file, it has this process that I already explained to you in here. Then you can see when you pass that, is take all the information, macros, header, it generate all the information from the machine as well. So when this is not coincidence. This is not coincidence that this is file subsystem. You see subsystem Windows 32 GI, Windows 32 GI, um, and it is not a constant. Is not a coincidence that these are the same. It basically when it compiles, it has this all this, and these are from the executable headers. These are opcode from the executable header, and you can tell here. This is from VirusTotal. This is the same link I share on the top. You can set file type, executable, and his linker is 2.6, and a compiler is min GW.
Okay,
You know,
that's the thing that Satoshi also talked about, right? This he used the Ming GW, the
GW.
GCC compiler set. I mean, it's probably actually the C++ compiler, I guess. But okay, but I still didn't see the similarities. I mean, I see that you have the same compiler, but I guess that compiler was used by. It's quite like let me challenge you there a little bit. Like that
Mm-hmm.
Adam Back might have used. I think, as far as I know, he was also into Linux. If that, I think it was even his preferred operating system, as for many
Yep.
cypherpunks. So this constellation of Windows GW32 and the GCC compiler suite and so on was not unique, right? I mean that probably a lot of these people working in the area used that. But I still didn't get the numbers, like the whatever hexadecimal numbers or that you showed. I
Hmm.
maybe it was too quickly, but I don't see where you find correspondence there. So where you should I see the same numbers on Hashcash and on the lib EAY, I think DLL. That, but I can you show that maybe to me and the audience a little bit
Yes,
where these
I'm
numbers?
going to go back. I'm going to go back to that. But before that, that's what he commented to Adam Back. He was
Okay.
also talk about the Ming GW. But to answer to your question, based on my experience, there are not a lot of people who are using Ming GW. Ming GW actually is not really popular as much as Visual C++ it is. Visual C++ has over 10 million repositories. Ming GW only has maybe 10,000, So it actually makes it unique. If someone use that for compiling their own files. In this case, Adam Back used it as in a Linux machine with the so Ming GW can be run on the Windows and also can be run on Linux machine. You know, it's like a cross compiler, and that's why I believe he used it because it makes his job easier for him to not switch
Well,
from
as
the
I
Windows to
mean,
Linux.
actually, I don't want to pretend to be a super expert here, but I'm using Ming GW. I mean, not the version from the time, not the 64 bit version and so on, but
Uh huh.
essentially, I'm compiling my programs with that. And the background is that I think that's now I'm not absolutely sure with that, but my understanding is that this is the way how can you use this the GCC compiler suite on
Mm-hmm.
Windows. So if you are like coming from Linux, like I did some Linux programming years
Yep.
ago, and then I just for convenience I wanted to have that same GCC compiler. But on the other hand, just again to constructively challenge you, I mean, of course, very few people were cypherpunks. Let's say if you take the total of programmers around 2008,
Uh
right,
huh.
it was also only a very small subset of people who would have bothered creating an electronic peer-to-peer cache system, right? A
Mm-hmm.
lot of them were, I mean, they were quite diverse, but I think the percentage of these people that were liking like Linux-like environments and the new kind of like stuff, the free software foundation and so on, they were quite prolific in that scene. So in
Mm-hmm.
other words, I wouldn't be surprised if Adam Back was using that compiler suite, so this Ming GW 32, uh, uh, that for me that wouldn't be a good signature, like a unique signature. Like I think a lot of these people, like I in my book, I scanned, let's say, 60 to 100 people out of that scene,
Uh-huh.
and I would say
Yes.
at least 50% of them, I don't always know, but given the comments that they made, they were kind of Linux affine, right? Linux kind of like users, and only
Uh-huh.
if they had for their jobs, they might have been forced to do Windows. But in whatever for their private hacking and so on, they would be using Linux. So I think if you like maybe there were like 1,000 people in that scene and a few hundred of
Yep.
them, I would say I wouldn't be surprised if they were using that particular compiler. So are these numbers there telling
Mhm.
you more or
Yep. No, no. This number is just again. This is for the public audience to understand how we got this clue.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
that's good.
this was this numbers here, 2.6 Minjingo. It's is for the clue. Like, hey, we have a clue that there is a possibility
I
that
understand.
this
Yeah.
guy
Okay.
for the possibility here, when we got to these two files, and then I run my software, I'm gonna show that software, that image of the picture of that software below, and with my test cases, so you will see this is more than just a coincidence and a language. You're not getting this similar uh, numbers based on just to use mean GW. There is no way that two computers in between 2 years of differences create a similar signature that as we see here. And I'm going to explain to you more, although if I want to
Can
go
you just
down.
scroll back there just for me to catch up? Just sorry.
Uh-huh.
So I
You
see,
want?
for example, there is this line on the left, and they are identical 0470H,
Mm-hmm.
right? And there you have the black numbers which start at 89, 74, 24, right? Are you talking about that?
8974. Yes, that's correct.
So that's until this E8 in the line below, in line 0420H, right? So
That's
that is
correct.
something you say. So if these are hexadecimals, right? Like each.
These are
Okay,
assembly
so
codes. These are assembly codes that be
yeah.
generated by machine during a compilation,
Okay, and they're
during
just
the compilation
represented
process
as hexadecimal. So if they were
as a
completely
hexadecimal.
random, like so each digit there would be essentially 16 options, right?
That's
Then you would
correct.
have whatever you have, like here, what is it, like a sequence of, I mean, it would be like a lottery win if all these numbers were random, even
Hmm.
probably less. You would have 16, whatever, there are 20 numbers, so it would be like 16 to the power of 20 or so,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So it would be statistically impossible if they were randomly generated to get a match between two files in that particular sequence. Is that
These are not random. These are actually represent something. Represents some information about your PC. For example, what subsystem that you use, what
yeah.
version of the Windows that you use, what CPU that you use. These are all this
Okay.
information that is gathered together.
So
So when a
only if you have the
compiler,
same system, you get
exactly,
that very sequence. And if you have a
exactly.
slightly different install, so if you're taking not the GCC compiler suite, you would have a completely different sequence in
Mhm.
in that machine language that is represented here as hexadecimals.
Not even the GCC. For example, you just change your CPU. Just use the
Okay.
AMD CPU instead of Windows. This number is not
So,
going to be the same because the
but I mean,
compiler is going to generate it.
it's like you have three rectangles here, right? The white
Yep.
rectangles.
Uh-huh.
So would one of them be the compiler and its version, the other one the CPU, or are they all convoluting that
The
separate?
I'm gonna show the actually these are the assembly codes. I'm gonna show you as the assembly codes that more down. Let me share with you. So come back a little bit. So and here I explains one of these files back from 2006, and the other DLL is first version of Bitcoin is 2008. You can see this compiled into 28820. Even Adam back config that he uses MinGW that we already talked about, as does this DLL, which is uncommon for developers to use this coding. When I analyzed the hashcash file, I was looking for a GCC compiler, and that's how I finally able to find a hashcash compiler back in 2006.
Okay, can I
Okay.
just challenge you here again? So you are saying that because I just wrote the book, I have all the dates pretty much in my head. Okay, you're saying that Bitcoin, Satoshi Nakamoto compiled Bitcoin at end of August 2008,
That's correct. This
but you're
first version of the
saying
Bitcoin.
okay, but I mean the picture that at least he created is that he by that time he didn't. I mean, version 0.1 wasn't even written yet, or I mean, he probably had a draft, but I mean, why would he have published the paper end of
Hmm.
October, so pretty much 2 months after this,
After.
and then had a pre-release version and then told everybody, now, okay, that can all be fake, that he's still working on it, and then expediting all the stuff into the new year 2009. So how
Hmm.
could that date kind of what's your explanation for that? Is
That
that a razzle
that
dazzle or what's that?
I honestly don't understand how that happened because the first version of the exactly the paper came when 2 months
The
after this.
31st of October 2008. So pretty
I
much
know.
two. And then he said he was still working on it. So if
Yeah.
that is all true, but I mean, I think
No,
there's some
doesn't
deceit
seem
maybe
safe.
in it. But I mean, why would he? I mean, just reasonably, I wouldn't know a good reason why he wouldn't have published the source code very soon or even with the white
Uh-huh.
paper, right?
I
That
well,
I mean, of course, everything is conceivable. It's not I mean, it's not impossible, but that would have been, I would say it would be not the way I would have done it because, like most people, if you just get out a white paper, they
uh-huh.
say, "Oh yeah, it might be all big talking, but unless I see the code, then I only get interested in it." Right? And
Hmm.
then he approached, well, actually, Adam Back, so he would have approached himself if your hypothesis was true about the code release. And he also approached in beginning of January, so just in the days
Hmm.
just before his official public release, he
Uh-huh.
approached, as I said, Adam Back. So in your hypothesis himself, Wei Dai, who kind of was a little bit like he wasn't really interested, I would say, and then also Hal Finney, who
Hmm.
kind of was lost on the way at some stage, right?
Yeah.
So that would
Well,
at least, I mean, these are not hard facts. I mean, that could have been tactical. And also the email to Adam Back, I mean,
mhm.
of course, he could have sent an email to himself as part of his whole plot of
Uh-huh.
disguising his identity. So I'm not saying it's impossible, but the date is, I mean, that date, right? This 28th of August 2008. Could that have been manipulated? For example, if he had set his system clock
No,
to
I
that,
don't I don't think Adam Back has the okay, you went a little bit I don't
no, this
think
creation time. What is that? Is that
the
also
creative
something
is
you extracted from the compiled version?
yeah. This
So
actually
to fake
does
this, would he have to manipulate the
he
system
has to
time?
manipulate system time. Yep. He has to manipulate the
Okay.
system time. But I don't to be honest with you, I don't see Adam Back or Satoshi Nakamoto as that smart enough to be able to do that.
The
Me
system time. No,
reviewing
that's easy.
the system.
I can do that.
Yeah, but for I don't think there are there are a lot of reasons. Like I've been coding about 25 years uh, of Visual C++, VB, Windows machine.
Yeah.
My reviewing the codes that especially the first version of the Bitcoin when it comes, it was very slow, it was very buggy, it was not working,
Well, it was
has a lot
working
of
on.
issues.
I mean, the blockchain started, I think, on the. I mean, the Genesis block doesn't count. I think that was like he just in retrospectively include that. But I mean, there was a running version by whatever January 8.
Hmm.
I think was only running on initially on Satoshi's computer,
It
right? He
was.
was the blockchain at the time. So,
Yep.
but um, but then Hal Finney got it to work, right? I think on some a few days after Satoshi Nakamoto started it. I don't remember, maybe the 12th of January or 15th or something. So a few days within the first week, there was him. And we also have a couple of other people who mined Bitcoin. Some of them are mysteriously unknown, right? We don't
Hmm.
know, but there were other miners other than Hal Finney and Satoshi. Satoshi was the dominant miner in 2009. I think he fetched
Yep.
the vast majority of Bitcoin that was available simply because he was not challenged by anybody else in terms of mining speed. But there were other people who got it to run. Not many, because there weren't
Yep.
many interested, but there were others. So it ran on other machines too.
Yep.
And it did have bugs. I think Satoshi also pointed that out. I mean, he said that he only tested it himself on whatever, probably some local machines he just connected to each other.
Hmm.
But it was running, even though it did have mistakes. I mean, like a bigger bug that came out, I think even in 2010 they still found bugs. So
That's
yeah, it
right.
was buggy, but it was producing Bitcoin and it was essentially putting up yeah, like a pretty consistent 10-minute schedule with some like only a few kind of failures to like some
Hmm.
blocks took much longer or so, but essentially it was running. That's
No, no,
what
no.
we
I'm not
know.
saying it was running, but it was buggy, and I have evidence to prove that it was buggy. I wasn't testing it
It
at,
was
at
buggy,
that
yeah,
time,
but I mean
you know.
Satoshi even admitted that in
Yeah,
certain
yeah, yeah.
way, right?
Yeah, yeah, he admitted that it's buggy, and so the puzzles will get together only if you understand that the Halfany and Satoshi Nakamoto, they're actually been working together. That's the only that you can
Yeah,
make the
we
puzzles.
know that, but when? Do you think Hal Finney
Before,
was
before at this time,
okay? That a
my
lot of people
understanding.
say that, but I
Hmm.
wouldn't have any evidence for that.
Yeah, Adam Back, he used to work with PROV. The Halfpenny enhanced Adam Back's work. You also
Yeah, I mean
mentioned in
that
your
they
book
knew each
too.
other, but I mean, so
No,
you're
they work with
saying,
each other. They work
yeah,
with each other
whatever, they were
closely.
two very prominent cypherpunks, right?
Uh-huh.
And maybe some company ties and so on. Nobody doubts it. But that Hal Finney, I mean, we have pretty strong evidence that Hal Finney didn't know Satoshi Nakamoto. I mean, the person behind Satoshi Nakamoto, the real civil identity of Satoshi Nakamoto, right? There's plenty of evidence, and but
What
you're referring
evidence?
what do you mean like before? Do you mean they collaborated before the code
Of course.
release or
Uh-huh.
before the white paper release?
No, before the Viper, Adam Back himself, I actually have it here that he mentioned in his article or in his book, Adam Back.
Hmm.
Let me show it to you. I'm trying to find out where. Maybe I think it's at the end of my blog. Um, that says, oh, there we go. Personal
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
communication,
We
March
know that.
2002.
No, they cited
So
each
this,
other. I also found
uh-huh,
a couple of, with all these cypherpunks, if they went a little bit academic, they published, and then there are sporadic citations like that with personal communication. But I mean, I published a lot. Probably, I published even way more than others. I have several hundred publications and so on, and not in this field, but elsewhere. And yes,
mm-hmm,
I cite stuff, and I say sometimes also, even though it's a pretty dirty citation, if you just say personal communication, because nobody can look it up, you can, I mean, but yeah, I mean that's very well known that they know each other, right? In the 2000s, and even like with Adam Back and Finney, they knew each other through meetings, through news groups, and so on since the mid 1990s and or even earlier, right?
uh-huh,
So that is
yes,
well known that they knew each other, but that they collaborated on what later became Bitcoin before before the white paper release. I mean, we know that
mm-hmm,
Hal Finney entered the discussion in November 2008, so just a week or so after the posting of the white paper. And then we know that Hal Finney helped Satoshi on the code. That can be
yes.
assumed quite strongly, but not before the white paper released, and
E-
not and I don't have any evidence that Hal Finney was aware of Satoshi Nakamoto's identity. Of course, I mean you cannot disprove it. I mean I cannot say categorically that he didn't know him, but I don't have single evidence that he did know Satoshi. I mean under
but he
his
knows
his
Adam
real.
Back,
Yeah, yeah,
but
but Adam Back
he knows
was
Adam Back.
was certainly an iconic figure at the time, right? So
He,
it was hard
Adam
to
Back,
not know Adam
excuse me,
Back.
excuse me, excuse me. Adam Back is never was the iconic figure. Uh,
For the
I,
cypherpunk scene, yes.
I I've been in, not I not been a cyberpunk, but I was really out. I never heard about Adam Back. I started
Well,
my
I
coding
have
in
several
90 90
colleagues where
90
look,
1998.
I have
I never heard about Adam Back.
I have several sources from cypherpunk scene, some highly accomplished people, right? And some of them say, kind of as you,
Hmm.
that Adam Back is Satoshi Nakamoto. And that is just not because they know that Adam Back is Satoshi in terms of the creator of Bitcoin,
Uh-huh.
but they said they wouldn't have a single doubt that he was capable to fully pull off Bitcoin in 2008, 2009, right? That they worked with him and they said that
Hmm.
was definitely one of the guys who was fully qualified to do that. So they don't know whether he is Satoshi Nakamoto. Some of them say yes, others say they don't know, but he said like if somebody had been capable in 2008 to pull it off, it would be Adam
Uh-huh.
Back because he was superb, in the things that he did, right? I have several very credible sources who worked with him, who knew him, who were friends with him, or maybe even still friends with him, who
Uh-huh.
told me that in a very credible way. So some of my dearest sources, right?
But Adam Back is
That
not a good coder. That's just the
Well,
reality.
some people say that
Adam
Bitcoin is
is
not wasn't coded well. I mean,
uh-huh, it was
I
not.
keep myself out of that, but I do think he could have done it. I mean, like there are a lot of people who say Bitcoin wasn't coded well, or some people
No,
say Adam Back
it
actually
was
didn't like C++. plus plus. I think he said it
uh-huh.
even himself.
Yeah.
So yes, I tell you what,
Visual
right?
C++,
For
not C++.
well,
He doesn't
yeah,
like Visual C++.
but is there any visual C++ plus plus in Bitcoin in the Bitcoin source code?
Uh, well, the C++ code usually C++ is I mean Microsoft C++. He worked for Microsoft,
Well,
and the
briefly,
Microsoft.
but that wasn't a pleasant. I mean, as far as I gathered, that made him didn't make him very happy. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what I picked
Well,
up at least.
let me share my clues that you asked, and
Sure,
I
yeah,
want to
yeah.
show
Please
you.
go on.
This is the source code that you mentioned. It came out 1/7/2009, right? So it would be almost impossible to create a file in 2008. That's what he says. Like he mentioned, I'm gonna release the source code. I'm gonna work on the source code. So he
Yeah, but
eventually says
these dates exactly match.
this stays exactly match with the release,
The
but
release, he posted it, I think, I mean, it depends a little bit on the time zone, whether you go GMT or American time zone, but essentially it was January 8th, January 9. Right? And
January.
so that he finished it on the 7th of January 2009 would actually fit. It also shows that the Genesis block headline, this famous thing there from the Times,
Mhm.
was actually retrospectively introduced. That's what I always thought, that he just didn't have the code ready, but he was so thrilled to have that kind of like that headline matching his own or part of his own motivation to have created Bitcoin that he didn't really want to miss it. And so he dated the first block. I think that was a fake date
Uh-huh.
where he could still do it because that wasn't a mind block, right? He just put
Mhm.
essentially the timestamp artificially on it because it was just it was part of the code and not a message introduced by mining the block. And even if it was, if you have the blockchain just running on your own computer, you can rewrite the blockchain as you want, right? I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
it's only when others come in. Okay, yeah, but please keep on. I interrupted you
So
there.
so you see this file, you copy them. If you, for example, I'm on the Windows and I'm sure in the Linux too, you have this file on your computer,
Hmm.
okay, and then you just copy them. Just copy them in another folder. They're gonna have a different date of modification. Okay, you can do that. It's just easy. Okay,
Yeah, but okay,
somehow.
these days I can, whatever in Linux I can do touch or so, and then
Uh
the,
huh.
the the update. I mean, that's not really. I mean, it's not a. I mean, if that was a safe timestamp, we don't didn't need a blockchain, right? I
But
mean,
it is
because the timestamping is essentially the thing. I mean, you don't really want to trust the Windows or Linux states that are specified on the file folder.
Yeah, but these are just the txt file. These are text files. The C++,
Yeah.
they don't have a time. They don't have a timestamp inside of them. The
Yeah, but
executable
the
file,
Windows
but
timestamp can easily be manipulated.
I know, and that's exactly what I'm
Yeah,
trying
yeah.
to I'm trying
Okay.
to share the cool clue. This
Okay,
file,
yes.
meaning the DLL, just like the DLL that I showed to you, it has its own timestamp. The timestamp is inside the file. You cannot delete it. You can manipulate it if you want to. Okay, it's possible. I don't think Satoshi Nakamoto has this uh, I don't think he has this knowledge to do it. Otherwise, he would do it.
But why
Okay.
are you? I mean, I know you might have some feelings about it and are not the greatest Bitcoin supporter, which is fine, right? But I mean, I studied this guy pretty intensively, all his skill set. Actually, that's one of my main lines of argumentation. And I recognize a highly skilled computer scientist, maybe not as skilled in the particular area of cybersecurity. I don't know. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that's your field. But he had like the way he conversed fluently on hardware issues, on software issues, on different compiler platforms and different operating systems, using a lot of slang and so on that I had to look up. That doesn't mean much because, I'm not the greatest expert on it. But I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I don't accept that you call him like that he wasn't smart enough or so. I definitely saw the signs of a pretty ingenious person in that on various ways. But I mean, let me listen to you. But I'm very skeptical if you say that he might not have been able to manipulate these states. I mean, he maybe in your world where you have a very special expertise, you might look down on him. But I think there are a lot of fields where he would have significant knowledge and
Well,
expertise.
let me answer your question with this simple thing. I work in
Yeah.
the enterprise section. I
Hmm.
met a lot of genius people. I met a lot of people that who were smarter than me. Okay, I know like I had plenty of coworkers who had most knowledge in cybersecurity in development. I was around a lot of genius people when I work in SonicWall or Dell when it was Dell. Okay, I actually met figures, people who were pretty smart. So that's why my observation about someone who is claiming that he's genius,
He
like
did never claim that. That's what other people. He never said I'm a
yeah, but
genius.
other people claim that he's other people
Yeah, okay, but that's the other people's
who
business. But Satoshi never came and said I'm a genius, you guys. I'm so good, like I look down at you. He never said that.
but
But
you see
I
all the
have,
people who
like,
excuse me. Let me
hmm?
answer your question because I want to answer. All those people who telling that Bitcoin, Satoshi Nakamoto is genius, he's a Jesus, he's a God. They're
No,
all
he's not
Bitcoin
Jesus. He's a
holders.
genius, not
It's
Jesus or God.
no. There are so many.
Yeah, but
Watch
I don't care
Michael.
about them.
Michael. Yeah, but those are the Bitcoin figures. Those are the one who is spending $100 million, $200 million, or $1 billion on Bitcoin conferences. They buy Bitcoin, they promote Bitcoin, they go to the talk shows. They claiming
Yes,
that this man is a genius, but in reality, I just don't see it.
well,
And
I do.
I've been
Let's
in
just agree that we
enterprise.
disagree on that, right? I talked to some very high fly, prize winning top cryptographers, right, who said that maybe, I mean, he was certainly not the best cryptographer in the world, right? He was definitely not, because cryptographers for these top guys, usually that tier the cryptography he applied was pretty
Mhm.
mundane, right? He didn't use cutting edge stuff. He didn't develop the hash algorithms and so on. They were all pretty
No.
dusted at the
Yeah.
time. They were like at least
Mhm.
10 years, if not 20 years old at the
Yep.
time. But that's not the genius. The genius is for me that he brought it all together and pulled it all the way through across the finish line. But look, I mean, we're not gonna. It's fine if we don't agree on that, right? I just want to maybe you just continue with your arguments here because I'm very interested in that.
Yeah, definitely. So you can see that the files that he says, "Oh, I'm going to share the C++ file with you," and at this time, and the files are basically is matches with the release time. But again, the compiler time that again he somehow forgot to touch it, or he might be able to had the knowledge, but he I don't know forgot to did it. Is actually compiled in 2007. So you will
So the
see that
2000, what is that now? So you have all these files. So from is that the file of the compiled version or what? This creation
this is
time.
compile version. That same link that I just sent you a few days back that I told you you can download the
Okay, in
compilers
other
to
words,
file.
that means
It
that
has this
he
creation
had
time.
compiled it already more
Uh-huh.
than a year
More
before
than a
even
year
the
and a
white
half.
paper.
That's correct. That's
Okay.
exactly correct. And here you can say this is from also this is from the same file. Then he said it's not gonna if you made a boost because he has some problem with Microsoft C++ to be able to compile it. And you can see all this evidence. Again, these are all available in that file.
Just for my information, this MSVC, right? That is just the the Microsoft editor, right? Is it?
This
I
is
don't think
Microsoft.
that. I mean, in my understanding, I mean, it might be confusing, but this MSVC, I have it actually on my computer, right? Just
Mhm.
refers to the editor, with all
Yeah.
these functions. But MSVC, as far as I understand it, is not the compiler because in MSVC, so Microsoft Visual Code, right?
Yes.
There
This
you
is a
can pick the
Microsoft one.
compiler, right? So they give
Mhm.
you even instructions how, for example, to install the C++ from the GCC compiler with the Ming W32 interface on it, right? So
Yeah.
so the MSVC, my understanding is that that is just the editor, and then he installed the GCC compiler suite with the Ming W32 on it. I think he even stated that.
I don't think the GCC compiler actually is only GCC Ming W Ming GW is working with GCC compiler. You cannot. I don't believe you can install it
Well, I
on
have it
the
installed
Windows.
just last week. This,
No, no,
I mean,
no.
of course, not the two. So you
But
can you can just
let me make it
yeah.
clear. I think you misunderstand what I said. I don't believe I don't believe I never use GCC or MingW. If you use it, you probably know better than me. But I don't think you can use the. So if you use Microsoft C++ that I've used for compiling many codes in my entire life, I don't think you can use the GCC use a linker. I
No,
don't
but
think
the
so. Okay.
MSVC, right? If
Uh-huh.
you go through the
Microsoft.
instructions, because I just did that last week for some other purpose,
Okay.
actually. I wanted to install the GCC compiler to compile my own C++ code on it,
Okay.
right? And then it tells you, yeah, if you want to do that so if you run Windows and install
Mm-hmm.
Microsoft Visual Code, right?
Uh-huh.
Then they say if you want to use this GCC compiler, then you have to install MingW, of course, nowadays a newer version, the 64-bit version essentially, and then you can run it. So if you then press whatever F5 or what it is on MSVC,
Uh-huh.
then it uses the GCC compiler with the intermediate of that Ming W. I think it's slightly called slightly different nowadays, but it's essentially the same thing. That's my understanding. So
Okay.
I don't think I don't think he used Visual C, at least
No,
not
he did not.
always.
Yeah, he did not.
Yeah.
And I think he's trying to help people because again, it's not common. I think Satoshi Nakamoto understand that not a lot of people using at least the daily people, I would say that. At least the daily people, who are not expert as much as he is, they're not using Ming GW, and then you use C++, and this code is not working in C++. I try it, it's not working in the C++. You have to change a lot of things in it to be able to just get the one compilation.
But you're
You
talking
know,
about version 0.1, right? Because
first
that
version.
is something that I mean, we don't know much about what he did in 2009 because he did most of the stuff, I think, through Fora. There's very little documentation. We just had
Hmm.
some last year in that COPA trial there. There were some emails released by, for example, Marty Malmi, who seemed to have been the first guy who really like worked on a longer time scale with
Uh-huh.
Satoshi, right? But I mean, people were uncovering that they were installing the code and having issues. But I mean, that's almost normal, right? If I download some source code and compile it with me, always, I mean, at least that's my experience, that it hardly ever works on first instance, especially if it hasn't been battle
Really?
tested.
Yeah, it's I had the opposite. You see, we're in a different type of a group. No, like we get different information and source code from different sources, because
Okay, let's just
my
suppose you're
experience is
right, and
exactly
I mean,
it
you're
was
the
it
expert,
was.
right? So I don't, probably you're right, and maybe I'm just a hobby programmer, and so let's just suppose you're right, and
Well, I
maybe you
work in an
continue with your,
enterprise, like I
yeah,
developing software for an enterprise company. I did a lot of work with
yeah.
Dell.
I never did
Right
that,
now,
so clearly
I
you have
have my
the
own.
competence in that regime, okay? Like
Yeah, I
I
also make like advisory, also developing software
yeah.
for other companies, but in a
No,
small
I mean, you know
scale.
much more about these things than I do, and then maybe you just continue then your argument there.
Oh, but by the way, the MinGW is still supported.
I think it's called different. I think it's just Mint. It has a similar name, but it has something with 64 in it, and for the
Uh-huh.
64-bit, and evidently it has, like Windows has been updated. So I think as
Because
a
now I
slightly,
can see here it says last update 2021, and this is the repository of SourceForge
yeah,
MinGW.
because it's not.
Oh,
I
it's not the
think it's
same
on
anymore.
GitHub, and I think it has a slightly different name. So that Ming
Okay,
W32 is I think it's essentially replaced now
with
by
something
a
else.
follow-up.
Okay.
Yeah. No, no, it's
Yeah,
the
I
same.
never use
But just,
MinGW. Like I'm a Microsoft person.
yeah, no, it's like a 64-bit thing, and the other one was 32-bit. And but look, I just installed it last week, that follow-up
Okay.
version with that particular
Okay.
combination with the MSVC on my computer.
Yeah. Perfect. Allow me to go. Should I share more clues?
Yeah,
Okay.
please.
More clues. So, give me 1 second here.
Okay.
Trying to. This is website of Adam Back. That's correct. Cypherspace.org Bitcoin. Okay, he mentioned that, he was upset basically that why the information get about Wikipedia get deleted about Satoshi Nakamoto. Like somehow he's interested to Satoshi Nakamoto in 2013, but let's say this is, well, obviously because he's become a figure. He's starting block a stream, things like that. Okay, but I want to show you why he was worried about. Now we know this is Adam Back. This is nobody else. Adam Back is worried about Satoshi Nakamoto, why he has been deleted, blah blah blah. Okay. Now we're gonna hold on.
Yeah, but
I
look,
understand.
I appreciate your time, and I enjoyed having the conversation, even though we disagreed sometimes. That is
Yeah,
fully
it's part
okay.
of life. Disagreement is okay. We can always be
Exactly.
disagreeing and be friends.
Yes, and yeah. So let me also thank the audience for listening to us here for what is it, like quite some significant amount
Wow,
of
one
time.
hour and 30 minutes.
Yeah, and I wish you a great weekend and
Thank you
pleasure
so much.
talking to you.
Thank you.
Bye
Have a
now.
great
Bye
day.
bye.
All right.
Bye
Take
bye.
care. Bye bye.